Hey guys, it's me, Mr. 250, and welcome back to 999. We're back here in the cargo room, and we just got the key, so we're pretty much ready to go. I just wanted to end it because it seemed like we were pretty darn close to being done, and I thought it'd be a good point to stop. Let's just put this key in here, and yes! Sounds like that did it. Yay! Looks like it's open, Junpei. I see. This key should open this door. Say, what are you waiting for? Let's go! Yes. It's opening. So, congratulations, we found our way out. Wasn't that easy, except for all that block pushing puzzle and the, you know, everything that wasn't easy. The hallway that left the cargo room headed straight towards the stern. Junpei and the other three proceeded down it, silently. Some distance along it, a large room opened up on the left-hand side. It looked familiar. Is this the other side of that one elevator thing? An iron grate covered each of the elevators. Junpei and his companions drew to a stop and began to discuss what their next move should be. We've seen this elevator before. We got off the one on the left just a little while ago. Then we went through the number 6 door, and that took us to the engine room. Yes, and after that we passed through the cargo room. And now we're back here. In other words, we made a loop. We're back where we started. Junpei approached the elevator. Gently he pushed the triangular button on the wall next to it. A moment passed. Okay, good, so this works at least. Did we gain anything of use? We got a key. Wait, did we? We'd gotten a key at some point, didn't we? I can't remember it right off, but I think we did. The elevator door opened. And shut. Pushing the button had apparently restored power to the elevator. The elevator was now functional. What do we do? Should we return to C-Deck? No, this hallway keeps going. Even if we do end up going back, I think we should see what's down there first. I agree. Let's go. Their decision made, Junpei and his companions left the elevators behind, and I dropped my stylus again. Hold on. Their decision made, Junpei and his companions left the elevators behind, and continued down the hallway. Sometime later, Santa, who had been walking several paces in front of the rest, suddenly stopped. Set in the wall in front of him was a door. That door looks interesting. So as far as Junpei could see, there was no other way to proceed. It was the door or nothing. Alright, let's open it. Junpei took a deep breath, readied himself, and then grabbed the doorknob and pulled the door open. And what's behind the door with the cool diamonds on it? He paused for a moment, then stepped through, into the room. And there he saw the number that had hung over their heads since they'd woken up. Oh, it's the 9 door! Oh, we finally found it. But, of course, there's still only one, so we're still going to have that issue of having everyone get through the door. Unless maybe the ending is that they just don't go grab everyone and they try to make a 9 with their current set of people. I'm not sure, I didn't check the numbers yet. 9. Like the numbers in every other door, this one too was a rough shape made of red paint. Its door was set into the back wall of the room. Junpei leapt towards it with a sudden burst of hopeful energy. It was a large double door, heavy and full of solemn importance. He grabbed hold of the door handle and shook. Nothing, but he hadn't expected it to open. The red sat on the wall, next to the door. Its screen read vacant. Finally, they found it. Junpei felt himself overwhelmed by a torrent of emotion. At last, they found the exit, but cold gripped his heart, and he knew all too well why. As he stood, frozen, unsure of what to think or feel. Junpei! Look! Behind you! He spun around. and couldn't believe what he saw. It was a door with the number 9 written across it. Wait. There's 2 doors? Well, that changes everything, doesn't it? Couldn't you get all the people out then? Maybe, I mean, assuming their numbers work. I haven't checked them, but they might. Was there a second door? Why? Junpei's voice was barely audible, even to himself. He stumbled towards the second door, as if somehow compelled. It was a small single door. It sat in the starboard corner of the room, on the same wall as the door they'd entered from, but in the opposite corner. 9. There was no mistaking it. A red sat on the wall next to this door as well. Junpei shook the door handle pointlessly and muttered to himself. Why? Why are there 2 doors? It was Santa who answered. There were always 2 doors. Just think about it. Zero never said there's only 1 door with 9 on it. That is true. It's just up until now we've always found singular numbered doors, which makes that seem unlikely. It is hidden, but an exit can be found. Seek a way out. Seek a door that carries a 9. Of course, we just assumed that there was only 1. After all, why would there be more than 1? Oh man. Jeez. Junpei was stunned. Zero's trick had taken him completely by surprise. There were 2 doors. That meant that all 9 people who met at the central staircase could escape, and leave no one behind. I just never thought about that there would be more than a 1 number 9 door. I fell into the same trap, I suppose. Now, the reason for the bracelet numbers being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 was clear. Divided into 2, the digital root for both teams would be 9. For instance, 1, 2, 7, 8, and 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9. The digital root for both teams would be 9. Or that also could work. But does it really matter? Because once you're off the boat, you could just leave and regroup or something. I don't know. There were many other workable combinations, but they all ended the same way, with a digital root of 9. What did that mean? The answer was quite simple. From the very beginning, the nonary game was designed to save all 9 people. Zero hadn't been lying. Zero had never said, there's only 1 door. But anyone who found themselves in the game would have assumed that that was the case. Fights would have broken out. One team would likely betray or deceive the other, or attempt to get himself through the door and blow up. Someone might be hurt. Someone might get killed. But eventually they would reach the room Junpei now found himself in, and realize the pointlessness of whatever violence they'd visited upon each other. There were 2 doors. No need to kill each other. I like how that's written in bold. They'd understand and be appalled, overwhelmed with guilt at what they've done. Perhaps that was the purpose of the game. That was how the nonary game was meant to be played. Fortunately, they hadn't started to fight one another. At least, not yet. But if one misstep was made, if the wrong mistakes happened, the stakes would rise and the noose would tighten, and somebody would go crazy with an axe. The thought of it sent a chill down his spine. So, what are we gonna do, Junpei? A voice broke through Junpei's frantic thoughts. Santa's voice. It brought Junpei back to his senses. No use worrying about the future. He needed to figure out what they were going to do next. There were 4 people in the room. Ace, Santa, Junpei, and June. That just seems like... I don't know why, that just rolled off my tongue. Their bracelet numbers were 1, 3, 5, and 6. The digital root would be 6. In other words, the 6 of them, or the 4 of them, couldn't open a door with the number 9. But what if there were only 3? Could door 9 be opened with 3 of them? It took him no time at all to determine the answer. There was only one combination of 3 people that would give a digital root of 9. Okay. That would mean... No. We gotta go back. That wasn't a possibility he was willing to consider. Santa and Ace agreed. Yep. I agree. We cannot leave June behind. Junpei let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Are you sure? I don't mind staying. June's body betrayed her true feelings. Her eyes were wet with the beginnings of tears, and her legs shook. It's okay. There's no way we'd leave you behind. Santa had said what Junpei had known the moment he'd realized which 3 people could go through the door. Besides, I'd rather drown at the bottom of the ocean than escape with this sausage fist. Maybe I'll get to go to Atlanta. Ah, are you sure you don't mean Atlantis? Oh, right. Perhaps it was the sudden reassurance that no one wanted to leave June behind, but Junpei laughed harder than he had in some time. Santa and Ace smiled. You guys. June blinked tears from her eyes and bit her lip. She didn't seem to know what else to say. Very well. Best we head back to C deck then. We should be able to take the elevator we passed earlier. Perhaps Clover 7 and Lotus will have returned from door 1. Perhaps, hopefully. Even if they spoke, they knew finding the others wouldn't improve the situation. There was no way they could be split into teams that could both go through the doors. Ace knew it. They all knew it. But there was nothing else they could do. They would find the other 3 and search for another solution. Alright, let's go. Oh yeah, because they're missing Snake, so that would throw off their numbers. Now, if they could go back and get his bracelet, assuming it's still there, I don't know if we ever checked if it was. And maybe if we get the number 9 bracelet, maybe that could give us a chance. I'm not sure, I haven't run those numbers either. Ace looked at all 3 of them, then turned and headed through the door. Santa and June followed. Junpei stared towards the door, then started towards the door, then stopped. He'd been too busy with the other concerns to notice the room itself. It didn't seem terribly important now, but what exactly was it? Junpei looked around the room, for the first time noticing the things that weren't doors with 9 on them. What is this? A red carpet ran between 2 columns of wooden benches that ran the length of the room. Is this like a church? The carpet began at the large set of double doors and ran towards the bow, towards... Junpei wasn't sure. Does that have a number thing on it? Or not a number thing, I mean, what's the word I'm looking for? Was it an altar, perhaps? Some sort of code thing. It was a small rectangular alcove at the end of the carpet, and inside the alcove was a raised platform. Resting on top of the platform was a coffin. A coffin? A coffin? What on earth was a coffin doing in a place like that? Oh, maybe this is that chapel that we saw on the map. Hold on. Let me take a look at the map really quick. We are on E deck. Yeah, this looks like it. I believe we are in the chapel right now, and that has both of the 9 doors, along with this weird coffin thing. But before Junpei had time to answer that question... Hey, Junpei! What are you doing? Come on, let's move! Santa's voice echoed in from the hall outside. Right, okay. I'll be right there. Junpei turned on his heel and left the quiet, somber room. So that was interesting. Now, of course, we have to hope... Why is there knocking? Is that coming from the coffin? Creepy. Was that coming from the coffin? Okay, let's just pretend that didn't happen. What was I gonna say? Where hopefully we can find the people, otherwise we might be a little bit screwed in our choices. Or maybe if we find the bracelets, that could also give us another option. They took the elevator up to C deck. Once there, they headed back towards the main hall and the central staircase. It didn't take them long. At least there aren't dead people on the stairs. Junpei found Seven and Lotus waiting for them. They didn't look happy. We got a problem. Clover is gone. I bet she found the axe again. Oh, it's this music again. I like this music. This music's exciting, while being slightly unnerving. Junpei and his three companions look at one another. He turned back to Seven and Lotus. What do you mean, gone? Santa, Ace, and June had their own questions to ask. When? Why? You two went into door 1 with Clover, didn't you? Seven and Lotus responded as best as they could. Yeah, we went through the door together. But Clover barely spoke to us. She just did her own thing the whole time. Yeah, I'm familiar with that. There were 4 rooms on the other side of door 1. She wouldn't let us into the 4th room. She just said, I'll take care of this one. And shut the door. She must have blocked it with something on the other side. Interesting. We waited for a while, but Clover didn't come out. We called for her, but she didn't answer. So I kicked down the door, and we went into the room. But it was empty. Clover wasn't there. There was a door on the other wall, and it was open. Well, where did that go? We figured she opened the door and left by herself. We ran after her, of course, but... well, obviously we didn't find her. You figured that much out. Clover's gone. Junpei thought for a moment. When did this happen? We got here just before you. You certainly have excellent timing. So you haven't searched anywhere other than near the staircase? No, we haven't. Finally, Ace spoke. His voice had an edge of resolve and concern. Very well then, we best separate and look for Clover. And that's how everyone gets axed. We haven't much time left. Let's begin. There were quick nods all around, and the 6 remaining players spread out. Junpei and June ran to the large hospital room together. As quickly as they could, they searched around and under the beds, and in the corners. She's not here. No, she isn't. Alright, just in case, we should go take a look in the shower room. Good idea. The shower room? That's where her brother is. She might have gone to see him. June bit her lip. She knew just as Junpei did that there was only one thing to see in the shower room, and that it wasn't pleasant. Well, we might as well check, right? Let's go. There was a screwdriver stuck between the door and the frame. Junpei and June slipped through the door, moved down the hallway, and stepped into the shower room. And not anywhere here? No luck. Yeah, I don't think she's in here. June's voice was faint, and she placed her hands over her mouth. Her face looked a little green. The stench in the room was almost unbearable. It had grown far more unpleasant since their last visit. If Junpei had eaten lunch, he would have had difficulty retaining it. He wanted to leave the room as soon as possible, but he had to be sure. And the only way to be sure was to check the other side of the divider. Wait here. June offered no resistance, and nodded weakly to Junpei as he headed around the divider. He stopped at the corner, and turned his head. Ugh. As he expected, Clover was nowhere to be seen. The only thing on the other side of the divider was a dead body, lying in a reddish-brown puddle of dry and drying blood. There are many ways a man can die, but this... The skull was shattered, and the head little more than a pulpy mass of brain, bone, and viscera. The left arm was hideously twisted, and a horrific alien shape, the bright white of the ulna shining through the remains of skin and muscle. Huh? Wait. Bright white... ulna? Bones. What about bones? The pieces fell into place. Junpei remembered something Clover had told him in the laboratory. My brother's left arm is, it's not like a normal person's arm. The accident hurt him really bad. Wait, what arm was broken, and what arm is this? To save him, they had to cut off his arm. Of course. Of course! Why hadn't he realized it earlier? Clover had told Junpei that Snake's left arm was prosthetic. But the left arm of the corpse behind the divider was quite clearly a real human arm. Or at least it had been once. Okay, so this was one thing I was a little bit curious about. Because we never saw Snake die. Like, we just found a body that looks a lot like him. Has his clothes. But we don't know if that's actually Snake. And I was curious if maybe, just maybe, Snake wasn't actually dead. And I mean, he could still be dead. That doesn't mean he's not dead. But that means that this is not Snake. That meant the corpse. It wasn't Snake, which means Snake could be somewhere else. Junpei and June headed back towards the large hospital room. They stepped through the door and out of the shower room. Down the hallway they went, searching for Clover in every corner. They had reached the stairs when Seven appeared, breathless and yelling. Junpei, June, where were you guys? He looked pale, and his face was drawn. Something terrible had happened. Did she find the axe? Junpei's breath caught in his throat. Did something happen? Seven drew a shaking hand across his face and gulped down a breath of air. Clover is dead. I found her in the first-class bathroom. What happened? What happened? Oh. All sound ceased for Junpei. The world was an empty, muffled expanse. Then he began to hear his own breathing. So what killed her? I mean, do we see a stab wound, maybe? June's mouth moved, but he heard nothing. She tried once more, and then her energy was gone, and she collapsed against the wall. He could have helped her, but he hadn't, and now she was dead. So he stood there, frozen in place. Clover. Clover. Why? Why had this happened? He forced his body to move. Every step felt like another nail pounded into his heart. Finally, he was in front of her. He knelt and placed 3 fingers against Clover's neck. No pulse. No breath. But she was still warm, and her eyes were closed peacefully. It would have been easy to think she was asleep. Easy, that is, were it not for the slowly expanding puddle of blood beneath her. He traced its source to her back. A gash just beneath her shoulder blade. Was the weapon a knife, perhaps? If it was a knife, the killer had taken it. Had the killer taken it when they left? When he closed his eyes, he saw Clover's smile. Her innocent smile. Her energy. He would never see her smile again. He could have done something. He could have helped her. His stomach twisted itself into a sickening knot. Junpei lifted a limp June from the floor and carried her from the bathroom. Okay. Are you alright? It was a foolish question, and he knew it. Yes, I think so. Her voice was weak. The fever had gone down, but the emotional scars she received were not likely to recede as quickly. Junpei laid his hand on her shoulder, and they walked back to the bedroom. You should get some rest. He lowered June until she was sitting against the bed. She nodded once and stared at the floor. There were 3 others in the room. Ace, Lotus, Santa, and Seven. They all stared at nothing, their faces drawn and tired. After a while, they drifted into the bathroom to see Clover's corpse themselves. Once everyone was back in the bedroom, Junpei walked slowly to the center of it, and looked around as the slumped figures gathered there. At least she didn't murder everyone. Yet, assuming. Who was the first to find the body? Me. Seven spoke from behind Junpei. He turned around. Seven's hand was up. Why'd you come to this room? To look for Clover. Why else? I found her body in the bathroom. Soon as I did, I ran outside. I got to the top of the stairs by the casino and yelled as loud as I could. Hey guys, I found her, but it's bad. She's in the bathroom, in the first-class cabin. Come quick. Or something like that. Then I went back to the bathroom. Ace, Santa, and Lotus showed up real soon after that. But I guess you two hadn't heard me, or something, because you didn't show. So I took off down the stairs to look for you. After that, I mean, you know the rest, right? Junpei nodded and closed his eyes. There was one more thing he needed to ask. 7. There's one more thing I'm worried about. What's that? When we finished all the puzzles in this room and got the door open, you stuck one of those plates in between the door and the frame, right? Why'd you do that? Come on, didn't I already tell you that? I did it so the door wouldn't lock. So we could come back to this room. Oh. You think I did it? Well, I don't know. That kind of depends on what you say, doesn't it? 7 sighed and shook his head. Follow me. There were 2 doors standing next to one another. He opened the one on the right. Behind the door was a closet. 7 stepped inside. Now, I'm wondering about the safe. Maybe, do we have a key for it? Or maybe a code? He stood in front of the shelves that filled it and gestured towards a small box. The box was a small metal cube. He looked at Junpei. This is the reason. This safe. We couldn't open it when we were getting through this room. I figured there might be something pretty important in it. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Besides, I figured eventually we might figure out what the numbers are for the safe. And if we did, I didn't want to screw around with door 5 again. So I put that plate in the exit door so we could get back in that way. You get it now? Junpei nodded and looked at the safe. He grabbed the handle and shook it. Nothing happened. It was as locked as it had been when 7 found it. There was one change, however. Just underneath the safe was a pile of fine reddish-brown powder. Rust. Junpei stared at it for a moment. Had someone opened the safe, dislodging the rust? Interesting. Junpei left the closet. 7 followed him back to the bedroom. It was cold and quiet. No one spoke. They sat, frozen in place by shock and grief and fatigue. The room felt tiny and oppressive, and the thick metallic smell of blood filled the room. Junpei turned and headed for the living room. Anything to get out of there. Was there some other clue, perhaps? Anything that might lead him to whoever had stabbed Clover? He took his time and examined the room carefully. His eyes caught on the door. The door that led to the passageway of door number 5. Behind that door was the dead body of the 9th man. Maybe I should have another look at it, just in case. Quietly, he pushed open the door. The smell hit him like a blow to the face. His lungs contracted, unwilling to inhale such fetid air. Acid boiled from the base of his stomach, churning what little food was there into a violent froth. It was too much for him, and he vomited. A thin scream of yellow water and bile splattered onto the floor. Ugh.